Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on June 24, 2022. The Colombia has been in the midst of civil war, the drug trafficking, and economic inequality for several decades. It had its fight with the leftist wings and the guerrilla wings for quite a long time. Colombia has finally elected the guerrilla leader Gustavo Petro, showing a paradigm shift in its political landscape. Colombia is the land of centrist and conservative politics. It had its fight with the leftist revolutionary armed forces of Colombia. This South American country has finally decided to elect the leftist guerrilla leader Gustavo Petro, who was once upon a time the leader of the revolutionary armed forces of Colombia, which laid its arms in 2016. In the runoff election means the second round of voting was conducted. Gustavo Petro defeated Rodolfo Hernandez. Gustavo Petro promised to remove the economic inequality from Colombia with an inflation of 10%, unemployment of 20%, and poverty of 40%. Colombia is very much need depth in poverty and inequality. Gustavo Petro's promise to move towards renewable energy and reduce its dependence on fossil fuels has made people believe in him. Assured the Colombians that he would ensure the democracy to be restored, increase the social security measures in Colombia, tax the fossil fuels, and tax the rich, and reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. This made the country stand up for the first leftist government for over a decade. For the history, the Colombians have voted for a leftist government, that is Gustavo Petro. So the challenges ahead is that the Gustavo Petro is having only 25 seats. The leftists have only 25 seats out of the 188 seats in the lower house, and the challenges from the petroleum industry rages because his shift to renewable energy will not be seen as a positive development in this regard, and he has many more challenges which he may overcome. Hopefully, he will usher in a very robust economy with democratic reforms. Hope we will wish all the best, Gustavo. Coal imports are just plaguing the generation companies. The import prices have increased, and with the rise in the power demand, the more and more companies, the generation companies, are going for the imports, and the coal import dependent companies have just increased, and it has the dependence on imported coal has increased in the 2022. Till 2022, the imports were at a very minimum length, that is less than 10%. 90% of the coal required by the power generation companies and the power plants, thermal power plants, were met through the domestic production of coal. The article shows a host of charts showing the 2022 and the before decade, the situation of the thermal power demand, and vice versa the demand for coal, the international prices of coal, vice versa the domestic prices of coal, then the dependence of imported coal power generating companies, and vice versa the domestic domestic coal using power generating companies. And the charts also show the dues of generation companies the losses of the generation companies, the losses of the distribution companies. Generation companies are those who are producing power, and the distribution companies are those who are distributing the power generated by the generation companies. All these charts show that in 2022, the international prices of coal have improved a lot, and it has reached six times of the prices of the domestic price of coal. And with this, the central government is throwing more and more generation companies to import coal for it for the energy demands. The power energy demands have reached more than 250 megawatts, and with the increase in the heat, and with the increase in the with the increase in the requirement of electricity, the generation companies are working in a huge manner to meet the demands of the consumers. The except for the Gujarat, the distribution companies are having huge losses. The power sector, the distribution companies are not able to repay the generation companies. The generation companies are also falling into debt crisis because of the distribution companies. The distribution companies are in a debt crisis. It is very much impossible to throw this burden on the consumers, and this kind of vicious cycle is forcing the power crisis in India, and therefore the coal-based thermal power plants, the generation companies and distribution companies are deep in trouble, deep in red, and deep in abyss. The editorial from the business line on cryptocurrencies is the right perspective and the analysis on the menace posed by the cryptocurrency based parallel economy, which helped the drug trafficking, terror financing, and money laundering. The decision of the central government through budget to tax digital transactions, also involving cryptocurrencies at 30%, and the decision to tax as a TDS, tax deducted at source at the rate of 1% on cryptocurrencies, has been the measures which destabilized the cryptocurrency market in India. The volume in these transactions has lowered by 60%. The whole world cryptocurrency market, the Bitcoin market, has come down from $2.5 trillion to below $800 million market, and the Bitcoin is selling below $20,000 per Bitcoin. All these measures suggest that the business on cryptocurrencies and trading on cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, is coming down. And India too has on its front has controlled this cryptocurrency market by taxing these cryptocurrencies. However, nothing is conclusive. Much needs to be done on this, because the global cryptocurrency market is surely going to influence the Bitcoin market in India. In order to eradicate this threat, we should have the cross country consensus on regulating the cryptocurrency market. The cross country regulation must stipulate registering the cryptocurrency exchanges or with the central banks of each local country, so that the supervision of the central bank is ensured. These are some of the steps suggested by the business line. The next editorial discusses the 5 years on, and the GST still has to improve. 5 years has seen GST growing from a one tax, one nation concept to a complex system having myriad forms of compliance aspect involving several filing of several forms and the compliance burden and the cost associated cost involved with it. Some of the reforms which have been ushered in for the last 5 years have been since 2020 20 crores and above turnover companies are required to upload the e-invoice system with the GST tax system. The GST taxonomy also has improved the e-way bill system and it has increased the number of e-way bills which will track the movement of goods in manifold aspects, and 28% and 5% taxation variants have come down for the past 5 years, and still the multiple rates are a cause of concern. Then the input tax system has been correctly correlated and coordinated with the supplier customer reconciliation possible with the real time filing of this supplier bills and the invoices on which the purchases have been made and on which the input tax credit is being availed by the purchasers. All these aspects are welcome, but there are many things to be done. The compliance cost burden is very heavy, and the time to introduce a uniform tax regime is what the focus shifts now. So, what about the number of forms which is needed for complying with the GST filings? This has to be reduced and made it a simple taxation. There have been many pending cases from the erstwhile service tax and the excise regimes, which must be settled through the amnesty scheme which may be introduced. And there comes the formation of GST appellate tribunal. The high courts are burdened with many appeals from the issues emerging or emanating from the GST contentions. This has to be only reduced with the formation of a GST appellate tribunal, which is long pending. With the increase in the technological platforms used by the traders and manufacturers, the GST infrastructure has also to embrace the increased investment in technology. These are some of the most important changes which the GST structure requires now.